What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Brent, and today I want to get into one light, three different setups, and the light that I'm going to be using is the Nanlite 120C. Nanlite was gracious enough to send this light over. No money changed hands. I do get to keep the light, but this video does have a sponsor, and it's going to be myself. More on that as we get into the video. I'm excited to get into this content. Let's hop right in. I first want to start with the most common way that I use this light, and with it being 120 watts, I often use it for more of my boudoir or on location style shoots, as I did make a video back when I was in Portugal about how to bounce light, and that is the way that I use this light the most often. So what you're going to notice is it does have a power brick, so I do choose to use a little bit of a larger C-stand, so not as much of like a super portable light stand, and it is a mini Bowens mount, but the kit does include a mini Bowens to Bowens in case you're someone who has a ton of Bowens modifiers and that's something you prefer to use. But in this example, you will see I have Emily standing with her back to, it's two windows, and then she's standing with her back to a more brick style pillar. And I am bouncing the Nanlite 120C into the wall that is across from her. And what that's allowing me to do is lift her levels so that my windows behind her are not like super crazy blown out. I didn't really want my shadows on Emily to be too crazy. So this kind of allows me to play around with her levels. And I did have that light cranked up to 100% because the light was lighting this day. The sun burst through those windows in this particular studio really hard. And I'm going to pop up some of the raw images that were getting taken while I was using this particular setup. But I love using it this way because with the extra 20 watts, I normally use 100 watt lights whenever I'm bouncing into a wall and kind of trying to lift my levels. With the extra 20 watts, it does give a little bit more of a kick. So I kind of do like this range, even though it is a little bit bigger. And what you'll notice is it gives Emily like a slight little bit of a catch light. But like I said, it balances her out, but I still don't mind my windows behind her being the brighter part of the image. I still don't mind that. All this is doing is just making it so that she's not in a deep dark shadow, or so that I don't have to super crank my exposure and blow out those windows to a crazy level. When you're doing this style of lighting, I do suggest typically to use a reflector, or you can go bare bulb. And I try to push the light a little bit close to the wall. Reason being is so that it's super focused and I'm getting a nice harsh spread of light back onto my subject, because I am combating the sun. So I don't mind that light coming off a little bit hard. But because the wall is so far away from Emily, as we all know, the bigger your light source, the softer your light is going to be. So it does still come off with a little bit of a soft quality. If I wanted to soften that light even further, I would back my light up from the wall, thus casting a bigger range of light onto the wall. And then, of course, it will throw less of that onto Emily, but it will be a softer quality of light if that's something that you wanted to do, kind of, or if you had multiple subjects and you wanted to kind of blast it onto more than one person, you could back that light up a little bit just so that you're covering more of the wall in front of them, and then that light will then fall onto your subject. So that's the first way that I like to use this light, and probably the most common way that I like to use this light. But now we're going to switch into the studio and see what I like to do on backdrops. Speaking of the studio, that brings me to today's video sponsor, which is my very own Studio Flash Playbook. This is a playbook that I've been working on for the last couple months, and it will go over 12 different Studio Flash lighting setups, starting from one light and progressing all the way to 3 lights. And this is made for multiple styles of learning, whether you're a visual learner, a kinesthetic learner, or a auditory learner, it doesn't matter. This book is going to be great for you, and it's something that you're going to be able to refer to oftentimes when you're trying to make sure that your setups are super dialed in. Because you're seeing this video today, this is actually the day of its launch. So the first 200 people that go ahead and cop the book, you'll get it for $19.99. It'll be $10 off. I'm going to have it linked in the description. Let's not waste any more time. Back to the content. Now heading into the studio, I really wanted to lean into the one light challenge, but now I want to test the RGB capabilities. It is 120 watts. I typically use 300 watt RGBs. So I wanted to see, what can this light do? What does the power output look like when I try to use the RGB? So my first thought was, let me try to do a silhouette. Let's see if I can get a nice saturated background and do a silhouette. And of course, I had to choose red. So again, I have Emily with me in the studio. I had her positioned to where the light can sit behind her, had it on sort of a small stand, kind of worked it out to where the light would blast behind her into the backdrop and then she would fall into darkness. Kind of tried to play with where she was in relation to the background and kind of where the light was in relation to the background. It's going to differ per person, per size, kind of what it is that you're trying to get in the look that you're trying to go for. But I also turned off all of the lights in the space. That's something that I do often. And when you work with constant light, specifically RGB, you're never going to get the full output. So if you have a 120 watt light, you're not getting 120 watts of light in your RGB settings. So I like to try to black it out as best I can. You can do this with blackout curtains or, trying to set a V flat up so that you can cut off the light coming in if you work in more of a natural light type of studio. But I always try to get as much control as possible. So I had that light kind of set up behind Emily. I still had it at 100%, just trying to kind of dial it in. And I switched to my Tamron 90mm macro. I have been using this lens for the last 10 shoots that I've done. Bought this with my own money because I need a macro and I love this lens. I'll do a review on it one day just to kind of take you all through kind of what my experience has been with that lens, but I love it. I'm not a fan of the 85 G Master. This lens, amazing. Anyway, I tried my best to kind of line her up and then I switched to the 90mm macro because I knew I wanted to get medium shots, not really close, but medium shots so that I can see her body and kind of watch the shapes that was coming from her creating triangles with her arms. That was the big thing because I wanted to see that red kind of come through. And a big thing when you are doing silhouette work, whether that be white light, RGB light, doesn't matter. The big things that I'm trying to look for, I'm looking at the hair. I don't want the light to be so powerful that when it's coming back past my model's hair, that it's kind of like fraying it, separating it, and kind of making it look artificial. That can happen if you're putting too much power into the silhouette. So I kind of worked with that by moving her around. And we also did sort of a slicker type of hair just so that we didn't really have those issues. But you will also notice I have my trigger on my camera. The reason for this, it gets a little finicky when you're trying to focus on silhouettes from time to time. Not every single time, but from time to time, especially when you have to turn off all of the lights in the studio. What I tried to do was turn on my trigger with no flashes hooked up and kind of trick my camera to give my camera a little bit of exposure because, when you turn the trigger on, it makes the image kind of expose a little bit, and it actually worked. So if you're ever having an issue where the space is too dark, but you're really trying to get a specific look, try it out. I was able to trick my camera and get some cool shots. I really dig the silhouette. It was really nice. In the future, of course, I would probably, add some other lights, maybe some V-flats and such to kind of get a slightly different look, kind of dial it into exactly my style. But this RGB held up amazing at 120 watts. Held up great. And it's nice and small and compact, so I was able to fit it right behind Emily, and she's a small person. So for me, that is a win. The second lighting setup that I did in the studio, I was super excited to try. I saw it on one of Brandon Waffle's videos recently. I can't remember exactly which video it was, but he had a light set up right behind his subject, kind of illuminating her. So what I wanted to do was put Emily's hair up now so that I can kind of have some strands of hair just kind of falling around all over the place to kind of give that light different places to kind of peek through. And I actually sat her down for this and decided to do more of like a profile type of look. That way I can get as much shape as possible on her face, because oftentimes what you'll notice is when you have your subject in darkness and you turn them to face towards you, it's a little bit more difficult to get expression. And the only way to really do that is to kind of either turn the model or create shape with the body. And with her sitting down, I wasn't necessarily able to create as much shape with the body. So I decided I'm going to try and create that shape with the face. Now, when I first started out and I was kind of testing out the light and trying to see how I wanted to do it, I had the light with a reflector on it and it was going pretty well. I tried without the reflector and that was just too much. That was way too much. It was not doing what I wanted it to do. I wanted it to be a little bit more of a focus beam. So we went back to the reflector. I just used the mini Bowens reflector that came with the light, went right back to that, and bingo, we found our sweet spot. Big thing here. Make sure that you're lining up your light to what you want illuminated the most. Now, I kind of lined up the hotspot to hit directly kind of around like Emily's temple area because I wanted the spread of orange to kind of come from behind her like some sort of mythical glow, right? You could also position the light a little bit lower, have it come up towards your model, and you would get a different type of effect. Or of course you can do the opposite where you have the light coming down lower, and again, you would have a different type of effect. So how you position that light, how close or how far you have that light is definitely going to determine what type of look you get when you ultimately do this type of setup. Again, I was using the 90mm macro, and I didn't really have to trick my camera as much because with the light coming forward like that, it is going to have a little bit more of a wraparound effect. So I was getting higher levels, so I didn't really need to trick the camera quite as much to get that exposure. But this one was super fun. This is something that I can definitely see myself playing around with more in the future, maybe adding in something like some haze, right? You can add in like a little sliver of light with something like a spotlight or something like that. So my challenge here was just to find a few different bases that I could start with and then take those and use them for other different types of setups. So this last one was probably my favorite. I really love the way the edits came out, and this is something I'm definitely going to be adding into my repertoire and kind of just playing around with. I think that's the theme of this channel, is we find something, we kind of start here, we build a base, and then we build upon that. And that is how we are able to create cool lighting setups and test out different types of gear. So I haven't done a gear review in a while, but this one was long overdue. I've had this light for a few months, really wanted to kind of dial it in, test it out before I brought it to you all. But I love the results from both bounce lighting all the way to using it as an RGB. It really holds up. And that's gonna do it for yet another video. I wanna give a huge shout out to Nanlite for sending this over. The Nanlite 120C is a full RGB light, and it's 120 watts. Again, mini Bowens mount, but it does come with the adapter to adapt it to your Bowens mount attachments if that's something that you're into. Don't forget to check out the Studio Flash Playbook. I will have volume 1 linked in the bio below. And all I ask, please give me some honest, raw feedback. I would really like to know how and if this is helping the community, because I really wanted to put so much time and effort. I've had so many people revise it, had people look it over from intermediate, beginner, all the way to expert level photography in the studio, and they've all given me their input. And this is the best document at the time, today, June 29th, 2025, that I can put out and release to you all. So please give me feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. I don't mind. Shoot me a DM, screenshot, post it on your story when you purchase the book. I want to see what you all create. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you all in the next video.